I was at my desk recently when I received a phone call. It was from the GIA, the Gemological Institute of America, the most prestigious and respected gemological organization in the entire world. You know them. They're the ones who grade diamonds, many other things. I assume they were calling to inform me that I'd been named the greatest opal guy in the world. But in fact, on the other end of the line was my nephew, Michael, a student at the GIA. I get a request through my nephew that one of his friends, his classmates, wants opal shirt buttons. Opal shirt buttons made of opal. I mean, really. So I just sort of blew it off, and it must be nuts. Obviously nuts. I mean, there's so many different types of buttons. You can go to stores, you get wooden buttons, pearl buttons, shell buttons, buttons with dots, multicolored buttons, every known type of button. But no, he wanted opal buttons. Yes, it can be done, but really, opal? And in fact, he wants black opal buttons, which, well, it might just set him back a little. So let's do the math. Button size is 11.5 by 3 millimeters. Number of buttons needed is 7. Opal per button, about 3.5 carats. Black opal costs a minimum of $4,000 a carat. So the cost per button is only $14,000, and the total cost, you can get in under $100,000. Pretty reasonable for a shirt. Well, I started thinking about it. Should I do it or not? And I came up with an idea. No, I'm not going to do that. But it did get me thinking about buttons. I realized I didn't know much about buttons. So apparently buttons first appeared about 5,000 years ago. People used shells and bone as basic ornaments, not to fasten anything. This guy is not very happy. He doesn't have a button. But this guy has a shell button, and he is happy. You can see it. Look at his face, smiling. This guy is also happy with his button, although some people might not be happy with that button. It took more than 4,000 years for the button as we know it today to be invented by a man named Heinrich Hohl. He actually invented the buttonhole, but his son had torn his vest in a vicious game of beer pong. He didn't know what to do, so he went to his father, and his father said, "Why don't we take your button and move it over and cover that hole?" The son said, "Well, wouldn't it be better if we put it on the back and stuck the button through the hole? That way it would hold my vest together." Duh. Inspired by the history of buttons, I was thinking, maybe I can make an opal button. What shall I use? Andamuka matrix, treated Andamuka matrix. It'll get the color, it's got the flash. It's not a bad idea. So I got to thinking, I said, a really good solution, not that cheap, would be to use synthetic opal. This is Kyocera opal. It's plastic, resin-based. Pretty. This is Gilson opal. Pretty impressive. I think for a black opal, that would be pretty good. Where is he going to wear the shirt? Well, he's at the GIA now. He graduates in December. So maybe the GIA throws a big graduation party, and he wants to wear the shirt at the party. And how would that look to be wearing synthetic opal? Another affordable option, Ethiopian opal. Ethiopian opal can be just as beautiful as the equivalent Australian opal. It's a slightly different animal. It tends to be much more transparent or crystal, and because of this, the cabochons are often cut thick so that you can see all the bits of color all the way through. I have to say that Ethiopian opal can be very impressive. Then I had a thought. What about opal doublets? Thin pieces of decent opal with a black backing that looks like black opal. And it's got a backing of a very hard rock. For all practical purposes, opal, you can consider opal to be glass. If you drop it on a concrete floor, it's going to break. The backings are usually very tough, much less fragile than just regular opal. So there'll be 7 of them, so they'll be strong, very strong. They'll look like the galaxy. Looks good. So here's our 11mm test button. We'll just mark the holes on it from our real button. Okay, let's have a little quiz. Which button was made by a button company and which by an opal imbecile? I'll give you some time. This one was made by the opal imbecile. This was made by the professional. Okay, I've never made a button before, and who knew that the holes would be the toughest part? Of course, the customer, wait a minute. If I'm going to do air quotes, I want them to be seen. So the customer won't actually get to see this video until I've already done the deed. I mean, what do you want for no charge? So let's get to work. I think that this will look better if I thin it out some. Nobody in the world makes doublets 2mm. What is this? 2.6mm thick, except me. So who's right, me or the rest of the world? Don't answer that. I hate to use this one. Such promise to have its life cut short, just like that. If you lose a button, where are you going to get one from? Well, I'll tell you where you're going to get one from. You're going to get one from me. And I don't want to do this again. I mean, how many buttons do I want to make in my life? Well, put it this way. You need a spare button, so he'll have one. So now I have to go to the trim saw and trim these things out. Wish me luck. So that's what I have left from my 2 beautiful doublets. Trim the edges off of all of these. So I have worked the surface of most of these. We're just going to put them on dop sticks and see what happens. So I've made the buttons all about the same size, and I've gone and marked dots with a pencil where the holes will be. Now I've drilled tiny indentations, which I'm blowing out the dust. The last thing I have to do is the very sharp edge at the bottom of that thing needs to be beveled off. So now I've got to drill holes through these buttons, a very difficult thing, as I learned before. After that, I'll polish them. Here they are, still on the dop sticks, polished, looking better than I feel. These are the main ones, plus a spare, which would be that one. And then there's a second spare. This one has a crack. It's got that little crack there and that as well. Everything else looks wonderful. I guess I'll just get him off these chopsticks and see what the final impression is. So here's the final product. Looks pretty good, but was it worth it? Now, just to put them in a box and send them off to their final owner. What a stud. Well, it's been another fun-filled adventure. I hope you enjoyed it. This is where I tell you you got to hit the subscribe button, the like button. You got to leave comments. You got to share. You even have to notify. Notify. Remember that. And I'll see you next time.